Jennifer Lucas with the franchising company. We are back again for another Zor Zoom interview. Today we are featuring USA Insulation. And so, Lynette, thanks for joining us. I'll just kind of turn it over to you if you want to give us a brief 30-second kind of elevator pitch on what USA is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so delighted to be here today talking about USA Insulation. We've been number one in our category for 4 or 5 years in a row. And so it's a super fun brand to talk about because there's a lot to love. We have a proprietary injection foam. We're number one in this category for a reason. Also, we have a very happy group of franchisees. They're successful, they're growing. But the best part of it all, right, is that we're able to provide a really high quality service to our end user and help them get the solution that they're looking for, which is more comfort in their home, right? Better energy savings, all that good stuff. So yeah, excited to dive in today.
Yeah.
So not a sexy industry by any means, but
No.
Definitely recession resistant. It's an absolute need. Are there any parts of the country that are not beneficial to this type of service or industry?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think sometimes people think insulation and they just think, oh, like cold places. But I mean, if you think about it, so I've got my gigantic water here, like insulated cup. It's like if you were to, slide your Yeti cup over a home, it's going to, or Stanley or whatever it is that you use, right? Like it's going to keep your cold stuff cold or your hot stuff hot. And that's the idea, right? So whether you live in Florida or you live in upstate New York, you can benefit as a consumer from better energy efficiency. And what's really fascinating is that we see that 89% of homes, not just old homes, but 89% of homes across the US are under insulated. That's what recent research shows. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, right? So whether you're, in a place like where I live, where there's 4 seasons and it's hot and cold, or it's just, the tundra all the time, you can benefit from having better wall insulation because, again, like the research shows that most homes are under insulated.
So you talked a little bit at the beginning about the spray foam,
Yeah.
and that's something that you guys are a big player in. Do you offer other types of insulation as well, or is it strictly
Yeah.
spray?
No, this is such a good question. And I think it's something that is really important to highlight, especially if you're looking at this as an opportunity for you as a business, is that there's multiple different service lines. So obviously the lion's share, the bread and butter of what we do is our proprietary injection foam. I'm like pointing at my wall because I have a wall here, but like we do wall insulation. And one of the reasons that this matters, right, is people usually think about insulation with attics, right? Like, spray foam or blown in foam for attics. We do that. We absolutely do that. But one of the things that makes us different is this injection foam into the walls. And if you think about it, right, in your home, most of the surface area in your home is a wall. It's like if you were to go outside right now, I don't know if it's cold where you are. You're in Florida. It's not cold. You're like probably still wearing shorts right now. It's cold where I am now. And if I were to go outside and I had to choose between a hat or a coat, what would you choose? A coat, because it's going to cover more of you.
Yes.
Right. I mean, obviously, if you can choose both hat and coat, that's what we're going to do. And we offer that. We offer, like the ultimate, comfort home options where we're doing things like making sure that there's no like air leakage, sometimes like specialty sealing and things like that, or, adjusting or upgrading the insulation in your attic along with the walls is going to be really beneficial. But what's nice about this model is that it's not just the injection foam. That's a huge part of what we do. It's a huge part of why our franchisees love us because the margins are really excellent on that. But we do also do spray foam. We do blown in foam. We do all those things.
Well, and one of the things that I like about it, especially from a business owner standpoint, is, when you're talking with a potential customer, yes, they're going to be spending some money on this project, but they're going to see a direct reflection on their energy bills. They're going to get money back from this investment.
Yeah.
And not all businesses, provide something like that.
Yeah. Plus, I think just like the peace of mind of knowing that everywhere in your home is equally comfortable is like just brings so much value to the homeowner. Like that is an intangible that I think oftentimes we don't think about. It's like the energy savings and all that stuff is amazing, right? But I remember when my son was really small and we lived, at the time we lived overseas, and for whatever reason, like his room was cold, and we tried everything. You think it's like the windows or the ducting or this or that. And it's like, now looking back, I'm like, it was probably that it was just like, is on the outside of the house. It was like poorly insulated. And if I could have like solved that, it would have given me so much like peace of mind as a new mom, not trying to like be like, okay, how do like keep them hot, but like not too hot. And you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what a lot of homeowners are trying to experience. They're like, I just want to be able to enjoy the entirety of my home and understand how to do it without spending thousands and thousands and thousands on brand new windows that then actually don't solve the problem.
Sure. So do you, so do the owners typically only work with existing homes and replacing or fixing it? Or do you also work with new construction, commercial spaces?
Yeah, the lion's share of what we do is retrofits. So of course, we're never going to tell you like turn down an opportunity. If a franchisee has an opportunity where the margins make sense and all that stuff, more power to them. But our model is predominantly based around this retrofit market. One, because there is a ton of opportunity. The other thing too is that the margins are way better because you're paying retail and you're interacting directly with the person who has the pain point. You know, when you're doing new construction, you're working with the builder who's thinking about volume and quantity and trying to get homes fast. Whereas when you're dealing with a homeowner, it's their home. It's one of the largest investments that they're ever going to make in their lifetime. And they are the ones who know why you're there, right? And so I think that makes it a different equation where you can get what we call in our business of retail pricing, which allows your margins to be healthier. Your scheduling is easier, tighter. It makes the whole process a lot smoother.
Are there any special licenses that the franchise owner would need to have?
Yes, so that's a great question. So it's not like some other businesses where it's like there's licensing required in every single state. Certain states might have some types of licensing, but in general, no.
Okay.
And so talking about the owner, what's your preferred avatar? What does that owner look like for you guys?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about this brand and this system is our ownership group. They are so collaborative and supportive of one another, but there's also like a healthy amount of, healthy competition. Like they really are empire builders. They want to grow. We facilitate something called peer performance groups where we're putting them together to help them help each other. And within that, you see these people who are like, we're really, helping edge each other forward. And we see some awesome results because of that. So in general, like the person who's coming into our system, it has that empire builder mentality. They really are here to create some wealth, create a big impact in their community, and are really growth minded. I think, with that, we see people from all different types of backgrounds there. It's not as though it has to be like you only come from XYZ industry in order to be successful. It's really more about that mentality and a willingness to like plug into the system and the culture that we've created here.
Sales experience a requirement?
So sales is a really important component of this business. As you can probably imagine, you're in the home with the homeowner. But our goal, right, is to bring business owners on who build teams that then go and do the things. So if you personally are not like, I'm a sales ninja, that's okay. That's, you go and hire the sales ninja. Like that's the goal. And we have so many things in place to help you with that growth in your team. So your particular skill set around sales doesn't have to be, 100, but knowing that that's an important essential function of the business is. It's a great question.
Talk to us about like the average ticket and how many homes, how many technicians they'll need and how long does an average service last?
Yeah, so our headcount when we start, we typically recommend that it's you have a salesperson, some sort of admin function, and then typically it's 3 installers to start. That's gonna, run that first truck. So I will say this, our average ticket is high. It's not expressly disclosed inside of our FDD, so I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it's good. It's healthy. And that's something that we are really proud of in the system. And our brand team does a rock star job of tracking that and helping make sure that we keep that average ticket high and growing. But then in terms of how long does the install take? Typically, it takes just one day. There are going to be instances where that varies, but yeah, just one day. And
What
what's cool is that
ab-
most of it's done from the outside of the home.
What about from a lead generation standpoint? Where are your owners finding these jobs?
Yeah, so we have some of the most impressive marketing that I've ever seen. So of course we have like all the marketing and things, but some of the things that we do that are unique is that we really focus on community involvement, community support. We also use broadcast, so we have television spots that actually convert pretty well. So we're leveraging a highly targeted marketing strategy to make sure that the exact avatar that our franchisee needs is seeing their ad, whether it's television, PPC, Meta, like whatever it is, that they're seeing that and calling in or filling out the form or doing whatever they need to do.
So a ton of marketing support. What about helping them find their technicians? Is there assistance with that?
Yeah, so one of the things that at Threshold Brand, so USA Installation is part of Threshold family of brands, and something that we here at Threshold are really proud of is some of the shared services that we provide that we believe are really unique. And one of them is in the area of people operations. I know that you guys have been business owners outside of this existing business that you have, so have I. And I remember that my first brick and mortar business, I started with like 30 people, which is so many people. And I remember it feeling like the hardest thing, trying to find them, knowing how to navigate that, how to train them, how to do all that stuff. And this is where our people operations coaching comes into play. So we have a program and a person who leads this team for us here at Threshold Brands, where they're partnering with our franchisees to say, okay, let's get a people operations playbook into place for you. So where are we finding these people? How do we find them? What are we looking for? How do you interview them? How do you fill your bench, right? This is something that we love to talk about a lot because it's not just about who you have now, it's about thinking about growth in the future and what's that strategy. How do we create competitive compensation? So there's a lot of things that are in place to help make that feel less scary for our franchise owners, especially if this is their first time owning a business, hiring themselves, while all being really mindful of joint employer laws and making sure that we're coaching and supporting and not doing it for them.
Okay.
I guess talk to us a little bit about the investment range as well.
Yeah, so a single territory for USA Installation is $55,000. What I like to highlight about this is that these are very large protected territories. So we do our territories based on 150,000 homes built before 1990. And part of why we do that, right, is because the regulations around required installation didn't start until the 80s. So that means that when you have that number, you're guaranteed to have tons of opportunity inside of your territory. But then this means that geographically, population-wise, these territories tend to be massive. So that's a huge advantage for our franchise owners. The all-in investment based on our item 7 looks like about $265 to $410, $415.
Okay. And a physical space is required, not a storefront, but an actual physical.
Yeah, that's a good question. So not like foot traffic, storefront. It's not designed to be customer facing, but you're going to need a physical place for your truck, your proprietary foam, your equipment, things like that.
And how many trucks do you start with?
So you'll start with one truck, and we do all of the upfit and the wrapping and all that stuff for you. We also have an amazing special program around financing that truck that's unique to us to help our franchise owners in that area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is there a situation where after a period of time an owner is allowed to kind of move into more of that semi-active role, or do you want them full-time for as long as they own the franchise?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. So, and honestly, we're open to an owner who, right, like people say this, right? Like there's really no such thing as a passive business. It's your business. There's an element where like you have to be involved. You have to, you're thinking about it. But hiring the right people allows you to step into that more semi-involved role. And you absolutely can do that with this business. Making sure you have the right hire, you have the right things in place, and that you're really plugging into our systems is going to help you leverage that and make sure that your business is still growing, but it can absolutely be a semi-involved concept.
And so I don't have your FDD up in front of us. Do you guys disclose what your average revenue numbers are? Is that
Yeah.
something you're here today?
Yeah. So our FDD, our item 19 is great. We disclose your, not your, in general, the sales for every outlet. You're giving like a percentage of like what the cost of foam is, what the cost of goods are, what the labor costs are. So they're getting a lot of really good information, even what the average percentage of the cost for your sales commission. And we see that margin across our system be somewhere between 50 and 55%. So really healthy margins. On average, a single territory, if you're to do the math, does about 1.1 million in sales after about 12 months.
Right.
It's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does your future growth look like? What are you?
I feel so excited for this brand, and one of my special roles, right, is that like I get to be a part of the process of finding great candidates for this brand. Brand is really special, and has so much growth potential. We have so many good markets that are still open and available. And so I think that in the next year, we're going to see some really dynamic growth inside of this system, with people who are psyched to really make an impact and build that empire.
There's so much opportunity within home services, and so obviously it's an area that Jennifer and I really enjoy working. A lot of our candidates end up in home services, so definitely think USA brings something to the table for anybody that's kind of interested in that space. One thing that you talked about, we just briefly touched on, was the relationship with Threshold. So talk to us just for a minute about what that means for an owner, and then also, how many franchisees do you guys have that are multi-unit, multi-brand owners within Threshold? Because I know that.
Yeah. So this is something I think is really unique about an opportunity like USA Insulation. The brand in and of itself is incredible. Even this like little bit that we've shared from like our item 19 and some of that stuff, like you can see it's a really strong brand. There's a lot to love there, right? Like it's definitely worth a conversation. But with being a part of Threshold, the Threshold family of brands gives our owners the opportunity to both grow wide and deep. So they can have, like you're saying, this opportunity to open multiple different types of home services or complementary services in the same sector, right? I know we talked about Pestmaster before. So right now I'm in a conversation with one of our USA Insulation owners about opening a Pestmaster, right? Because it's a really complementary service. They're in attics a lot. They see things. And instead of calling someone else, why not just, resource it into your other business? And so we see a lot of that crossover, and we're really supportive of that because we recognize it's an opportunity to, one, strengthen our system with owners that have a proven track record, and also be able to refer yourself some business. That's an awesome thing. So in our system we have 123 territories that are open, and most of our owners are multi-unit inside of USA Insulation, and a number of them also own other Threshold brands. So and then across our other brands, we see people who own, multiple different brands as well. And what's nice too is that you see lots of different investment levels. So USA Insulation is a little bit on the higher side, but say something like Pestmaster tends to be on the lower side. So it gives you entry options as well.
Well, and that's the thing, and you brought up building an empire, and that's one of the things that we'll talk to with the right candidate. Not everybody's looking for that, but when you are doing multi-location, multi-brand, obviously not day one, got to crawl before you walk before you run.
Yeah,
time to get to that point, but having the ability to do that all under one parent company is really special. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of interesting to think about, right, that across all of our brands, all of our shared services, there are literally hundreds of years of combined experience in servicing our client avatar, our end user, which is the homeowner. So we have a lot of shared intellectual capital around like, how do you get that person to say yes? How do you get that person to pick up the phone, click the Facebook thing, or, and that's really valuable, right? Like, it's not just, there's multiple layers to this. And I think having that access to lots of different perspectives and experiences helps you as a business owner. And I think that's really at the core of it, right? Like the essence of franchising. It's like, why reinvent the wheel? Why try to, do it all yourself? And maybe if that's your thing, great. Like, but starting from scratch, from nothing, is different than starting with a really strong brand. And then you add on top of that like all of this other experience, and you've really created a network of support for yourself that helps immensely in hitting your growth goals and your income goals at a pace that's probably faster than you do it on your own.
So before we wrap up, is there anything that we haven't asked or anything that you'd like for the audience to know that you feel, maybe makes USA unique, or just support that you guys provide? Anything that we haven't covered yet that you want them to know?
Yeah, the one thing that so when I came to this brand, I was really, really blown away by is some of the support when it comes to getting people launched. I talk to candidates every day, all week, and this is a big part of the question that they're asking is like, okay, like, how do I, like, how do I get there? And one of the things that USA Installation does that I love and I think is so brilliant is that when it comes to, the onboarding period, let's be frank, is a little bit longer than some other brands. Part of that, right, is you have a physical space and you've got some of that, but we're taking the time to really get them up to speed on the product so that they can provide their end user the best result possible. And so part of what they do is that they and their team, the owner goes with their team up to Cleveland, where our headquarters are. We've built a house, like a literal actual house for people to go and practice in. So they go and practice, they like do all that, they get all this on the job training. They go back to their home location, and then our team comes to them to go and do that first week or so of jobs with them. So again, like they're getting these layers of support to really make sure that they're hitting it out of the park from day one. And I don't know if you caught this, but this also means that from day one, you've got jobs. The way that our onboarding is structured is like you open and you've got a place to go. And I think this is the best thing possible for a franchisee, is to know that from the jump, like our goal is for your first week to be booked out with jobs, places to go, people to see,
I
money
forgot
to collect.
So when some of our candidates have gone through the process, validation was so strong in that they were almost too busy whenever they came out of training, which is a great problem to have. But
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
that is a major point.
I'd say out of everything we've covered, that may be the most exciting.
Exactly.
I know, it's like the best. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, thank you again for the time. So
Of
if
course.
you're watching this and you're interested in learning more, feel free to send me a text message 270-215-2844. I'll get with Lynette. We'll make sure that your market is still available, and then talk through the next steps. And also remember, we interview a new franchisor every single week. So please remember to hit the subscribe button, and that way you don't miss out on any of these episodes.
Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you so much.
You. Have a good week.
Thanks.